It's been a hot minute since we last were here presenting High School League of Legends in Australia. Welcome to 2021. Welcome to another High School League. My name is Formal. Joining me is Ewan Midnight Reed. And it might look strange, but trust me, he is physically right here. He is with us, and I'm excited to kick this one off right now.
Yeah, so my Formal, it's going to be great to get things going. A new year and a new place for the High School League of Legends Championship for Queensland. And the games we have today should be pretty exciting, I think, taking a look at the two teams we have for game number one.
Yeah, it's going to be, a couple of familiar teams, but at the same time, completely new lineups. Chisholm going to be taking on Maroochydore, and if those of you who followed us last year may remember, during that Rift Royale, Maroochydore had an amazing run through that North Division. They made it to the top two as a school. It was a fantastic showing. Chisholm, on the other hand, they are constant top 8 finishers in our main leagues. They are always competitive. They always put forth good lineups. And even though we're looking at completely new players here today, I still expect to see, some semblance, some of that structure be put into effect once more.
Yeah, you would hope so. Even with a new setup of players and such, you'd still have, the same strategies coming into it in effect. The teaching staff, the coaching staff wouldn't too much change there. So coming into them, they should be good to go. And on the right side, of course, Maroochydore have a very fun-looking lineup. Spider-Man up top then is looking quite good. Yeejok in the jungle. Ezreally Bad in the mid lane, which is just the MVP name if there is one. KiNgLiNg down in the bot lane is the AD carry. And of course, Breadweeb will be backing him up as a support role.
Yeah, Maroochydore always, it's good to see. And what makes me really excited, Ewan, coming into this event is I'm getting reminiscent, nostalgic feelings almost of all the way back in 2019 when everything began and all of these teams were new and starting off for the first time. But now we're in a situation where it's almost begun again because a lot of the veterans of this league have gotten to the stage where they've graduated, gone on to university, have moved on. We're sort of beginning again from scratch. And one of the great things about these high school leagues is watching these teams develop. And you touched on it before when it comes to the coaching. Chisholm has a very established esports program. They do have their own coach. They have practice sessions. They get together, they work, they strategize, and they improve as the season progresses. They put a lot of time and investment into helping these students develop. And now we're starting all over again. We get to watch that development again from the very beginning. And I'm just so excited to see where everyone is going to wind up at the tail end of it all.
Yeah, because the strategies, again, as I said before, shouldn't be too different in theory. But then again, you have to take into account you've got different players with different champion pools. You're going to have players that have different play styles that they prefer to use. So the approach will be different, but we still expect solid, theoretical fundamentals that they can bring to the table. Because at the end of the day, yes, the players will change, but the staff behind it, the people who are backing them up, that remains a constant, and that should be, give them a little bit of an edge perhaps coming into this first game of the day.
Yeah, exactly that. It's going to be so hard to really predict who I feel is going to take this one. Now, the Chisholm lineup, of course, is going to consist of Odd Future, Blue Wrath, Deegsta, Tubular Bells, obviously a fan of The Exorcist, and chxzu down in the support role. I love the song. I don't know how familiar you are with that movie, but Tubular Bells is one of the most iconic theme songs for any sort of movie. So I'm pretty excited. That might be my favorite name coming into this one. I always like to pick a favorite name, and I'm leaning towards the Tubular Bells.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid I'm not much of a movie buff, I'm afraid, Formal. So you are going to have to be alone in understanding Tubular Bells there. Sorry, I'm a trade-off.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Either way, though, it's going to be a great season nonetheless. We are soon to kick off. Now, it's a little bit different from what we've seen in the past. This time around, 20 teams are competing in our open division over the course of 8 weeks. That's going to be our round robin stage. From there, we cut it down to the top 16, I believe, where we move into single elimination. And that's when the series start to get played. That's when things get nitty and gritty. But for these first 8 weeks, it's all about seeding, all about positioning, and staying out of that bottom 4. in order to stay alive in this event. And you want to start off strong. You want to get early wins because in the Swiss format, wins means you get to play other teams that wins. You get to improve your tie breaks. You get to keep climbing and establish yourself as that top team. And I mean, it's also that first week of the season, Midnight. Like, it's got to mean a lot to these players.
Yeah, week one, I think, is always the important week. Not only is it, the chance to get ahead of, break out of the pack for the beginning of it, but it's also a chance of if you can get, those first couple of weeks, you get a couple good wins under your belt, you become a team that needs to be feared. And if you're a team that has a lot of, fear perhaps isn't the best word, but if you're a team that is performing well, then teams that perhaps are struggling a little bit will start looking at you with a mixture of fear and awe. So, and I think that's a really great, like, imagine being the player where another school looks at you and like, oh God, it's that's like, we're a little bit scared now. Like, that's going to be a bit of a good feeling in a way, to be doing successful.
Absolutely. And also when you do find that early success, it helps you set up what I'd like to consider strong early practices because you're understanding, okay, what we're doing works. And then if you can continue to do that while maintaining that balance, because when it comes to high school esports, balance, I think, is almost the most important word. And I don't mean balance in terms of, gameplay balance. I'm talking, life balance and that ability to balance, your scholastic activities with a proper sleep pattern, with a proper diet, with your practice regime. These are the things that you need to find and gel and understand and put together almost as quickly as possible. These are what's going to separate, I feel like, the good teams from the great teams when we get down and dirty. And in these first weeks, that's where we get to see which teams are already almost that step ahead. Because I guarantee you, if you have that balance in your home life, it's going to show when you hit Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, and as well, that balance of home life and Summoner's Rift as well as your coordination with your teammates. You got four other guys out there, or four other teammates, I should say, who you have to work with, you have to coordinate with, you got to come up with strategies, you got to come up with who makes the decisions, who's your team shot caller, like a lot of things that you have to work through in a team. And I know, like Max, when you and I play, there's often a discussion of who's making the decisions for the teams, and I'm very interested to see the shot calling and how that comes through, as it looks like we will be kicking off game number 1 with a bit of a bang.
Yeah, we are underway. And look, it's not one thing about establishing who calls the shots, it's also making sure their teammates listen. Hint, hint. Either way, Rek'Sai is going to be our very first ban in this one. A little bit of a surprise to see Rek'Sai take away. Not a surprise to see that Darius ban. And for those of you who might be tuning in, they might be wondering, Darius, he's not typically seen in the meta. Well, let me assure you, when it comes to Queensland High School, there is no top laner more awe-inspiring, more fear-inducing than Darius. He will either get 20 kills in the first 20 minutes or get absolutely nothing done at all. Every game seems to be determined by a Darius when he hits the rift, so not allowed this time. We're having a more traditional game to kick us off.
Yeah, and I love the other ban that Maroochydore have followed up with, which is the Zed. Now, again, if you look at like the meta and the highest hub highs when it comes to the competitive area, you might be thinking, well, why Zed on the list? But Zed is phenomenal at finding one person and removing them from Summoner's Rift. And if Chisholm try and draft a composition that doesn't have a lot of high damage threats, then it could be a bit of a problem. So I love that ban. And the final one, Yuumi. I think, do we really have to explain why Yuumi's on the list there? In a world where sustain is king, Yuumi is basically like hiding behind the throne, just waiting for you to get too close.
So something that I'm also noticing, at least in terms of the style of the bans that are coming out of Maroochydore as well, they're targeting a lot of big solo players. And this could be a symptom of the early stages of this league and new teams coming together. They haven't really identified the sort of strong team champions, and they might be playing a more solo type game. I think Mundo is another champion that kind of best exemplifies it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Maroochydore kind of does opt for more of a win lane, win game type strategy in comparison to Chisholm, who, as mentioned before, they have a coaching staff. They have practices. They are going to be looking to play as a team. And if we're going to try and find a more meta or a more organized team comp, I think we should be looking more to the blue side of the rift.
Yeah, well, so far they have got a pretty decent comp already, just from the looks of it, because they've got Gnar, which is very flexible right now, with the Strider Maker, and in fact he can engage, disengage, he can do whatever the hell he really feels like right now. And pair that up with a Volibear, who once again fits a similar role. And if they lock in an Orianna here, that is going to be a deadly team fight setup already coming in.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard Chisholm look at that same time. They're going to want a team fight. They're going to want to coordinate themselves. Expect the timing. Expect the play around the jungle as well. It might be a new lineup, but that's always been how their coaching staff has played. Allow their jungle to set up the tempo and play through it. Meanwhile, on the Maroochydore side, we do finally see our first team fight champion locked in, and it's going to be the Vladimir. And this is definitely a unique look coming from Maroochydore. Typically, you would expect, Mundo in the jungle, but Warwick probably will take priority there. Vladimir, typically a top laner. Well, Mundo's not going to be going mid, so I guess Vladimir's going to be going mid instead. Maroochydore definitely picking something that you don't typically see in events like this.
Not typically, but look at already their identity is very much saying, if we get to the late game, if we get to that 40, 45-minute timer, we are going to be near unstoppable. Mundo right now, I think, is a ridiculously good tank. No, he doesn't bring crowd control to the table, but he brings damage, and it is so hard to stop a Dr. Mundo from actually getting access to your backline. If you look at a team fight, Mundo, even through healing reduction, will get on top of Deegsta's Orianna, and Orianna really doesn't have a way of protecting herself from a level 18 Dr. Mundo with 5 items because he just doesn't die. Pair that up with Vladimir, again, late game team fights, Vladimir is king.
Sustain is the name of the game for Maroochydore. Like, these are 3 of the most iconic sustain champions right now. Warwick as well. Has a deceptive amount of lifesteal if you even get a monochrome of ability power into his build, and that is a scary sign. Like, I'm just going to propose, have you ever tried to rip a sponge in half? Like a proper, big sponge? Have you, built well? Have you ever tried to rip one in half?
I've got the upper body strength of like a snail, so no, never.
Exactly. The point is, it's difficult, and that's what Mundo is. He is that damaged sponge. However, they do need other threats, and I do like this kxzu lock-in, in theory, one of the strongest meta AD carries at the moment. An issue, though, that I could be seeing for Maroochydore, though, would be the ability to back up KiNgLiNg when we do see those killer instincts, when we do see those heroic dives, and unless we see a true engaged support out of this Maroochydore team side, they might be starting to run into a few difficulties.
Yeah, I would love for Maroochydore if they grab themselves something along the lines of a Nautilus. That is really good hard engage. He can protect the kxzu if kxzu gets in trouble. But I think Chisholm had the same idea because, yeah, they're grabbing the Nautilus for themselves and it's put Maroochydore maybe in a bit of an awkward spot now because, yeah, they might not have the most ideal form of engage there.
No, they don't really have much engage at all. I guess they're going to be playing more for the pick, and I guess more of a macro game might be the answer for Maroochydore. Morgana will be the last lock-in, and that will somewhat keep KiNgLiNg protective, but engage is not the name of the game for Maroochydore, especially when you compare that to the lineup Chisholm put together. I was sort of waiting for a proper ball delivery system. I think a strong dredge line out of chxzu definitely could be the case. You do not want a team fight against Chisholm. Like, that is a very, very strong team composition. This is a team composition I would expect to see at the top level of play.
It's got you could say, oh, it does one thing really, really well, and that's all it's got. But it does a little bit of everything when you actually try to break it down a little bit. It does team fights phenomenally, as we've talked about, because Orianna ball, Gnar can slam people into the wall, Volibear and Gnar will be almost an unstoppable front line, and that should give more than enough time for Deegsta as well as Tubular to keep themselves safe. But then also you can 1-3-1 with this composition because you can put Gnar and Orianna in the side lanes and they should do relatively fine. You can 1-4. You can look for picks with the Nautilus. Like, Chisholm can do a little bit of everything, but it's the team fights around the Dragon and the Barons where they should be excelling. And honestly, when they want to try and hit the mid-game, hit it running, they need to be setting up around the dragons, hopefully about 30 seconds before the dragon spawns, so they can set up and then basically tell Maroochydore, okay, either you can test the dragon and you run into us where we're probably a little bit stronger, or you're going to have to simply concede the dragon. And there's only so many times you can concede a dragon formal until, well, it's too late.
Yeah, and I guess even if you're on that Maroochydore side as well and thinking, well, late game is probably when all of our champions are going to be at their strongest, I do kind of worry, though, if that's actually the case, because while on the individual level, yes, that would seem to be what they're playing for, but Chisholm, again, with the more team fight, with their strategies, and even when you sort of look at what these laners want to do, they're not going to be getting a lot of in-lane pressure, I feel like, if it's turning into straight 1v1s. Gnar should be able to sustain himself against a Mundo, and Orianna should be able to sustain herself against a Vladimir. I feel as if Chisholm almost would be okay to be like, all right, we're going to go late. That's fine. We can go late as well, because once we get into our 5v5, individually, you might have stronger champions, but if we play as a team, which clearly we are gearing ourselves up to do, we should be able to win those fights. We should be able to continue to secure those later dragons, and we should be able to win the game. And it's kind of why, for me, this game is almost more of a skill check towards Chisholm. Do they have it within themselves already to have that team synergy to show us that they can play a team fight and establish themselves as one of the top teams? I feel like they can.
I feel like for this setup required, and this can go to both teams, honestly, I think we will have to be keeping a good eye on our junglers for the first, I'd say arguably the first 15 minutes of this game, because, again, all of the lanes scale rather well. And I think the only other lane that really wants to try and put some pressure on is Gnar, because Gnar's a bit of a bully and he likes to try to slap people around with that boomerang. But other than that, I feel like our junglers, and as you talked about, the macro style, who's going to get double scuttle? Are there going to be any cheeky invades coming through for either of these teams? Will be the pressure point for these teams. And then after that 15-minute mark, then, 1-2 items will hopefully start coming through for both these teams. And that's when the dragon fights will be kicking off. And Maroochydore, their scaling will mostly be ready to go. Like, sure, you always want more items, but hey, you can definitely do well with the 2 items on KiNgLiNg as well as the Vladimir. So I'm expecting a bloodbath, but I'm expecting it to happen a while down the track.
In a perfect world, I would agree with you, but you also have to take into consideration the mental state of these players. And I know it's a little bit of a cop-out, but it's week 1, it's a high school league. Some of these students are playing on stream for the first time ever in a situation like this. They're going to want to step up, and they might try to actually force some play. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get some, early level shenanigans, or perhaps some sort of aggressive, at times maybe even unnecessarily so, moments in lane from these players. I wouldn't mind seeing that actually if it does come from the jungles, however. I like your point about how we need to be following these jungles early. Specifically, I think yeejok on the Maroochydore side has to find a way to help get this team an early lead, because going even into the late game, I still kind of favor Chisholm, even though they might not have, the strength of their champions. I just feel like they're going to be able to execute late game a little bit stronger, unless Maroochydore has gotten themselves to that accelerated late game at a faster stage. And if that's going to be the case, yeejok I'm going to want to see a lot of. And I actually want to see Breadweep start to roam if at all possible. A couple sneaky picks on the Orianna, roams up to mid lane, would be phenomenal for the Maroochydore side.
But that is a bit difficult to perform when you look at it's a Tristana and a Nautilus. If you leave KiNgLiNg alone for too long and, KiNgLiNg overextends to get access to a minion wave, or he hasn't recalled because of an improper shove or something along those lines, KiNgLiNg is basically begging to get dived on, because the engaged potential out of Tristana and Nautilus cannot be understated. Even pre-level 6, they can just all-in you pretty much whenever they feel like it. So if they go for these kind of roams, you're going to have to make sure that KiNgLiNg on the KiNgLiNg is plenty protected, as we are in to the game already.
Yeah, we are kicking off our 2021 season. Chisholm in blue, Maroochydore rocking the red. And already the action is kicking off. Dredgeline's going to find KiNgLiNg with Tubular Bells just sitting behind. Gets a couple pot shots. Nothing too crazy. No summoners burnt, but hey, it took us less than a minute, Midnight, and we already have action.
Yeah, and it feels a bit weird to say, but that action actually doesn't lead to much. KiNgLiNg didn't use any summoner spells. He didn't even use the potion that he was sitting on there. All he did was drop an early ward down, and it won't result in much other than an early recall from King, because neither side can easily confirm, hey, where is the enemy jungler starting? You can safely assume that the bottom side start it will be it. It's more popular right now. Junglers love to get that 2-man leash, and it does allow for some creative pathing, but at least for now, nothing much has changed, even though we did get a little bit of a fight early.
Yeah, it was a pretty good, a good way to start things off, a good feeling off process, I suppose. At that same token, though, a couple little things that I am noticing already, which could be telling of the way this game is going to progress. A typical thing that we've been seeing more and more, I feel like, in higher elo games has been this notion of bot laners actually being the first person to be getting the sweeper. In this situation, KiNgLiNg actually did go forward, drop the ward, but opted not to switch to the sweeper. And this can tell us one of two things. The first thing being they might not be aware of this current meta shift. The other thing, however, could be the idea of they're not really going to be expecting that jungle pressure down below, or they're not going to be looking to set up yeejok for jungle pressure down below, and they're going to be more concerned about the idea that blue Wrath, I should be saying, could be coming down to that bot lane. They're opting for a more defensive approach, and that does give us a little bit of an insight into the potential psyche of the Maroochydore team.
Yeah, it does kind of tell us that Maroochydore, if they are going to look aggressive, which I do agree with you earlier, they should be looking to, it's not going to be coming through the bottom lane. And that might just be a mentality of, okay, we need to play safe down bot side. Tristana does have a bit more oomph early on, especially with that Nautilus. So look for the top side there. Gnar, while he is difficult to gank, it is easily doable. And with the good doctor up there as well, you can simply bait out the Gnar's bounce and then just run him down if he overpushes himself. Odd is playing quite aggressive, which is standard for the Gnar. Of what we'll need to see is to drop an early ward in the tri-bush. If he doesn't drop an early ward to somewhere, it is a little bit because look, Warwick already intentionally smells blood because he has gone for a faster clear, and it might result in the first blood coming through.
Yeah, this is that aggressive play that we wanted to see from Maroochydore. It could be a little bit too aggressive, though, because I'm not sure SSPPOODDEERRMMAA was quite ready for it. Double buff on the Warwick, though, might have caught Odd Future out. Flash is burned, and that's going to be a successful gank for the Maroochydore side.
Yeah, Flash are burnt there. A great start for yeejok. This is what we wanted to see out of the Warwick nice and early. Now, the question is, what does he get from this? Now he's going to be able to successfully get the topside scuttle without contest, because blue cannot risk fighting him right now for the scuttle crab because future isn't there. As we're seeing chxzu.
That's a good bind. That's a very good bind. chxzu is going to have to back away from that. Meanwhile, action happening again up top, as it does look like blue Wrath kind of is a little bit annoyed of what yeejok is doing and was trying to sort of pressure them away. The return gank not going to come through. Odd Future did recall and have to teleport back to that top lane. And yeah, more pressure happening down in the jungle right now. No flash, no teleport. Odd Future cannot really help out his jungler. However, oh no, it's actually yeejok who's not getting any backup instead. Like Deegsta tries to steal it away, but yeejok did save Smite, is able to grab it and is sticking around. And I'm not sure this is going to be the correct choice in this situation. Now backup finally gets there in the form of SSPPOODDEERRMMAA, who's just going to walk straight into the action. Meanwhile, down below, KiNgLiNg is actually going to get popped. First blood goes to Tubular Bells as the marble in the jungle is continuing. Maroochydore out on top in the top side. They find 2 kills on the opposite end of the rift.
Yeah, and that started looking so bad for Maroochydore because we did see a 3-man collapse coming through here. But the problem is that the 3-man collapse never actually grabbed their opponent there. Blue took a while to commit there. Odd Future came in from the flank. And it took Deegsta a while to actually get into the pit because he started coming through the inside of the jungle track and then decided, no, I'm going to go through the river. And that delay, unfortunately, gave Maroochydore enough time to realize, okay, hey, SSPPOODDEERRMMAA, get down here. I need help now. The Mundo comes in, and it feels so weird, but the lower the Mundo gets, the deadlier he is with that auto attack damage. So is able to get the bonk down, 1 kill apiece for the top half of the map of Maroochydore, and a good start. And now, again, we need to see this pressure continue from Maroochydore.
It's interesting, too, because I feel like they're starting to establish this pressure perhaps a little bit sooner than one might expect. Typically, SSPPOODDEERRMMAA on the Mundo would have to wait until level 6 when he becomes that real threat in lane. And I'm almost a little bit concerned that the Balmy Cinder might be a bit premature in this situation because for at least 2 levels, he's going to be pushing into a Gnar that's going to welcome it.
Yeah. It makes sense in terms of the amount of stats it gives, the extra little bit of wave clear. It's actually a nice item for the Mundo. In general, but maybe something, a little bit of armor could do a little bit of benefit here. Odd Future will continue the harassment, but level 6 coming up soon, and with the natural health regeneration that Mundo also brings to the table, it's not going to help him fight the Gnar in any capacity, but it will basically make sure that he shouldn't be able to die to Odd Future there in the top lane. Trading is looking down at the bottom half of the map. We're once again seeing our 2 junglers butting heads almost over the dragon, but I don't feel like even with the lead, as they both scry each other, I don't feel like Maroochydore, even with their lead, can actually afford to try start the dragon game early. And in a way, it is a little bit upsetting as Spider-Man. He's level 6, it could actually be a problem.
Yeah, this is actually looking very good. Gnar is going to be going to Omega, but it's not going to be enough. Odd Future should be getting uked down with that ukulele, and SSPPOODDEERRMMAA gets himself a solo kill. The top half of the map looking so strong for Maroochydore.
And this is what Dr. Mundo brings to the table. His inability to die is ridiculous because we're 7 minutes into the game. No one has bought healing cut, as it's, you know, so maybe Odd Future could look to itemize into it, but it's not a nice purchase so early on, especially when you're down by a significant margin. And his cleavers hit like a damn truck. Percentage health damage, I believe it's like a 10-20% of your maximum health you will take from each cleaver. It's a ridiculous amount of damage. So when you're falling behind against the good doctor, especially as a Gnar, whenever that ultimate is up, we should expect SSPPOODDEERRMMAA to continue that pressure and really try to put the hurt down onto Odd Future.
And now is actually where I want to see Maroochydore start to prioritize that dragon. Because of the lead advantage, by getting that solo kill when Odd Future did not have teleport available, it does mean Maroochydore has a TP advantage up top, one that they can afford to use for more pressure down below and not have any real negative consequence. SSPPOODDEERRMMAA has given themselves that lead, and that should give priority down low. Or a gank might do the exact same thing. Tubular Bells tries to bump yeejok away, but in the process kind of leaves chxzu to his own devices, and those devices are saying self-destruct because there are 3 Maroochydore members there, and that's going to be another kill for the red side.
Ironically, that is probably the best case scenario for Chisholm. There was very little way that chxzu could get out of that once the gang comes through. Warwick, once he sets his sights on you, it is so hard to get away from him. So he's like, okay, I will have to sacrifice myself here. It does go down, and it will be the first dragon taken through here by Maroochydore, and it's a good start for the Maroochydore lineup here. They've gotten themselves about a 2,000 gold lead, should push up to that with the securing of this dragon here. And the jungle tempo, we talked about the importance of the junglers for that first 15. yeejok has been everywhere. He's been top lane, he's been bot lane, he's been in the enemy's jungle because he really felt like getting a snack. It's going phenomenally well for this Warwick. He's just hit level 6 now. Blue Wrath, he can't keep up the pressure there. He's only down on level 4.
And it's interesting to me, too, because the only place where yeejok hasn't been has been this mid lane. And typically mid laners are, you know, the second most involved in action like this. But because of the choice to go with that Vladimir in the mid lane, Ezreally Bad doesn't really have that lane pressure. And is kind of content to go even with an Orianna who, while can be strong, I mean, I know you in particular, you feel like Orianna is one of the best, if not the best mid laner. You still need a team around an Orianna. And in a way, yeejok has sort of shut that down. KiNgLiNg taken so low by chxzu. Unfortunately, for the Chisholm side, they won't be able to take down this KiSA. And that could have been their best shot in a long while.
Yeah. It was a good bit of pressure there. And Chisholm, this is their biggest point of pressure right now. Odd Future is struggling in top lane, and it's unrealistic to expect him to be able to do this on his own. He even needs backup from Blue, who I think just in terms of raw damage, they do not have the damage to kill the good doctor in top lane. So instead, they look bot side. Tristana is stronger than KiSA in the early game, and they both scale very, very well. And chxzu on this Nautilus has done a phenomenal job getting some good hooks in, getting the pressure down there. And Breadweed, for as good as the Black Shield is, it has its limitations. And if, you know, a Nautilus decides he wants to engage on your KiSA, there's very little that you can actually do as a Morgana once he's made that decision, other than one Black Shield is good, but one Black Shield can't stop, you know, the king of crowd control from starting a fight if he really sets his mind to it.
I am so curious right now what the gold differential actually is in that bot lane in specifically, because when you look at the Chisholm team composition, yes, they're a good team fight, but so much of that damage is going to be coming from Tubular Bells, and that's why it's important, the most important thing for Chisholm, that if any lane is going to have success, it's going to be that bot lane. And when you look at the CS differential right now, it does look as if Tubular Bells should have about a 1k gold advantage, despite what the team gold difference is up above. And as long as that stays consistent, you would have to think Chisholm is still going to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, I mean, if we can't see the numbers, look at the itemization here. Straight up, Berserker's Greaves on the Tristana compared to just boots coming in from KiSA here. That's already, I believe, 700-800 gold difference between the two of them. On that last recall, and it would have only accelerated. So, yeah, about probably an 1,100 gold difference is what I would estimate. But they're down in gold because look on the top half of the map here. The difference between... Mundo already has a bounty, and that is where Maroochydore have their massive advantage. Speaking of their advantage, looking for a little bit more there, but could not get their hands into Odd Future.
Happy feet from Odd Future, launching himself to safety at the nick of time, barely able to avoid yeejok, but with this wave, with this Herald, I'm not sure Odd Future is out of danger yet, and I do like Maroochydore recognizing their strong side compared to their weak side. They are focusing the top half of the map, and they've already gotten that first tower that chases on. yeejok's in trouble. Blue Wrath, Grump can wait. Your top laner needs help, but I don't think it's coming. Spooderman's going to get that kill just as Deegsta arrives. Meanwhile, Volibear still getting some work done on that Grump. Finally, the Toad is no more, and he might be able to come down and help Deegsta, who has to flash over the wall. Follow-up flash does come from yeejok, and Deegsta will go down. Shockwave that moment too late, and now Blue Wrath tries to flash into the safety of the bushes, but I hate to spoil this to you, Blue Wrath. That's not safe enough. Spooderman grabs another, and Maroochydore get 3 overall.
Yeah, Maroochydore looking great, and some uncoordination coming in from Chisholm here that kind of we didn't expect coming into our game here. Odd Future overstaying at the turret. Rift Herald will always take 2 plates off of a turret, as we might see a fight in the bot lane, actually.
Oh, that was a very timely escape from KiNgLiNg right there. Actually using the killer instinct to run away. Something you rarely see.
Yeah, but KiNgLiNg gets out in one piece, and actually, Vladimir might be in trouble as well.
That's going to be a trade somehow. Mundo hurts.
Yeah. The good doctor hits like a damn truck. It is... Again, it's the reason why he's viable. He's a tank who doesn't bring crowd control, but he brings a massive body and a massive amount of damage, and it's so hard to lock him down there. But I think that's still a good pickup for Odd Future there. Yes, it was a trade, but if you can trade 1-for-1 when you're behind, that's actually more gold efficient than to trade 1-for-1 when you're ahead.
And especially when you're trading on the weak side of the map as well. And that's something I want to bring to attention. It's pretty obvious right now, Maroochydore, they've got the strong top side. Chisholm has the strong bot side at this stage of the game. However, you can see Maroochydore is doing a better job at accelerating where they're strong at the map. Now, whether or not they're going to start to flip that map around, especially for a few more of those dragons, that's yet to be seen. I do feel as if the top and the bot half do clash. Maroochydore would come out on top. I'm curious how they play at this stage moving forward, because coming into this, I wasn't expecting this level of synergy from Maroochydore. They have certainly impressed in that regards. I now want to see how their macro is, because I want to see him take this strong top side and put it to use in securing some of these neutral objectives.
Well, Maroochydore actually can afford to keep their top laner on that top half of the map right now, because he has access to that teleport, and we are in fact seeing Blue Wraith on the wrong side of the map right now. Dragon is up. He was just spotted on the top half there, so that is going to be a dragon given up there. And in a way, I do think that is the good decision. You just don't have ways to deal with the Mundo if he does TP to the bottom lane, but we might actually talk from bottom lane.
Yeah, this actually could be another case of chxzu getting caught out. Teleport's going to come through, but it could be too little, too late, as chxzu will be held in place. yeejok in too deep, actually, and Tubular Bell still hurts. Rocket jumping after Bread will get the double and wants the trip to boot. KiNgLiNg will be able to get to the safety underneath the tower, as up top, SSPPOODDEERRMMAA still showing off what the good doctor can do. Blue Wrath is 3 levels down, and now looking at a gray screen. Tower falls as well. Back and forth action on opposite ends of the rift.
I really want to talk about that bottom lane there, because Maroochydore came in with a plan. Their plan did not account for Odd Future to come in. That's why when we saw the teleport there, KiNgLiNg and Bread, they didn't commit. They didn't want to overextend for the fight there, but yeejok also didn't back away as KiNgLiNg.
Oh no!
Time!
Oh, that is unfortunate positioning from KiNgLiNg. That's going to cost another tower. SSPPOODDEERRMMAA does not have help as he teleports in, but chxzu is looking for that fight. yeejok and Spooder each so low. The autos get rid of one, the autos get the second, and now Breadweave all alone might be able to Odd Future, but it comes at the cost of their own life. And Chisholm, they are back in this game. Tubular Bells 7-0-0.
Maroochydore are not respecting Chisholm's power. They are not acknowledging the fact that Tristana is the powerhouse of the team right now. In that last fight, the teleport was feels like a call of, okay, let's try and recover the situation. Let's try and, peel back a few errors that have been made. And when they get into the fight itself, which I don't think they were actually really ready for, Mundo was at half health when he came into the fight there. And the targeting, they targeted down the Nautilus as opposed to the fed Tristana. And then they went for Odd Future. In these situations, when you've got beef balls that haven't got inherently a ton of damage out of, like, for example, the Warwick, you have to spend your time focusing down the high damage, squishy targets here. And I think for the future fights, Tubular got a fantastic couple minutes run, but now he's going to have to be safe. But I think he's got the ability to do, because look at his items formal. He's not only got the Kraken Slayer, he's now got the Collector to start taking heads.
So I want to bring us back 6 minutes ago when we were looking at this 2k gold lead by Maroochydore, but that gold lead didn't extend to the bot lane. I feel like Maroochydore didn't really recognize that being the current situation when they were looking for these fights. And if they didn't recognize it before, they have to recognize it now. We are going to see all the eggs in the Tristana basket. We're also going to be seeing Deegsta get run down right now as Shockwave again used too little too late. Bot tower is going to fall, so Maroochydore still trying to be proactive, but here comes Tubular Bells again. Meanwhile, up top, on Future and Blue Wrath try to coordinate. They do find KiNgLiNg. SSPPOODDEERRMMAA really wants to get this Tristana gone. You can see that is yeejok on the top, about to make that flank, but look at the blocking from chxzu, able to try and keep Tubular Bells safe. Has to rocket jump, but he rocket jumps straight into Ezreally Bad, and that is Tristana gone. That is the damage from Chisholm gone, and next will be chxzu, who does fall thanks to the Dark Binding, and now Maroochydore are back in control.
Chisholm, it looked so well to try and defend the turret there, but the problem is, in terms of sheer firepower, they don't have the numbers. They were trying to fight effectively a 3 versus 4 on the bottom half of the map, and while your Tristana is fed, she is great at dealing with one person at a time. She cannot handle being swarmed by numbers. That is what you build the Runaan's Hurricane for, and without that in the back pocket, it is so hard to deal with being jumped on like that. I'm going to quickly talk about the top half of the map as well. KiNgLiNg, we talked about it in Champion Select about the roaming of bread on the Morgana. If you leave KiNgLiNg alone, he's more than likely has to be safe. And unfortunately, I was speaking about bot lane because, Nautilus, Tristana can go on them. Technically speaking, the same dive threat comes out of a Gnar and a Volibear, because they can disable the turret, slam you into the wall, and unless your Killer Instinct, their ultimate, is ready to go to get at a dodge, you ain't escaping that.
Something I want to bring up as well on that note, and this is a strength I've seen for both these teams. They're doing a good job at playing the map in a reactionary fashion. Whenever a play is made by one team down below, the same thing is being made by their opponents on the opposite end. We've seen that flip sides at the same time. First, it was Maroochydore making plays up top with Chisholm down below. That time around, it's Maroochydore down below with Chisholm making the play up top. Each team are finding their openings, and they are looking to strike, but at the same time, they're also not really recognizing when the same can happen back to them. I feel like the first team to almost calm down and play a bit more defensively while they're attempting to make a move on the opposite end of the map might find themselves getting advantages, because that's how you establish yourself as a more consistent, proactive team.
Well, I don't think we're getting anything too passive normal, because teams are setting up for the dragon. Mega Gnar has spawned, and there is absolutely going to be a fight here. But Chisholm, I think they're one man down. Blue isn't here, so this could be dangerous.
Yeah, especially when it's your jungler with the smite still down in that bot lane and has to run through a forest of wards, so they will know he is coming on the Maroochydore side. Dragon's already started. In fact, it's already at half health, as it's going to be a tough fight for Chisholm. They're going to need to pull the trigger. They're going to need to pull it now. Shockwave is not going to be enough to steal it away. SSPPOODDEERRMMAA still quite healthy. Will walk out of this one. Ultimate available, but Blue Wrath wants to play. Way too late, my friend, and now he's going to try to run through the jungle. Maroochydore recognizes this as a bit of bait, decides not to pull the trap, and they will walk out content with their third dragon of the game.
And it's not the end of the world for Chisholm that they weren't able to steal that dragon away. The Shockwave was a nice attempt, but it is so difficult to simply beat a jungler when it comes to raw firepower, especially because Chisholm, they don't have that instant pop. They haven't got something like a Cho'Gath that they can rely on here. It is an Orianna, and that is very difficult to pull off. But again, it isn't the end of the world, because it is only dragon number 3. Dragon number 4, that is where Chisholm must commit to the fight, or give up the soul and not contest it and trade for a Baron or something like that. And 9 times out of 10, the trade Baron for a Dragon Soul is not usually an ideal one. So hopefully Chisholm, in the next couple of minutes, are ready to go for the next fight.
And it would be a Mountain Soul as well. That's not a fun time. Considering all the eggs are kind of in the Tubular Bells basket, you don't really want to add more shields that they're going to need to bust through. I almost have to feel like if Maroochydore is able to secure this next Drake, they should be able to secure the game. Chisholm, I believe, will be aware of this, and we should see a more coordinated pressure against the way how Maroochydore was able to set up that last time. Coordination, though, really feels like it's been the Achilles heel for Chisholm.
Yeah, there are points where what they do looks good, and then points where it's looks like they're not on the same page. And again, that's kind of expected in week number 1. You're still trying to, feeling the groundwork here. You're still working. You probably have a lot of internal stuff you need to work through about coordination and such, that suddenly you run into a team who is putting pressure on you, and that can be hard as Blue. Might be a bit of a problem here.
It's a trap, but it's not a well-coordinated one, unfortunately. Blue Wrath in a bit of trouble. I like the block on the Void Seeker by chxzu, and that actually probably kept Blue Wrath alive. Meanwhile, though, SSPPOODDEERRMMAA really wants to fight. How much damage do those two autos do? Deegsta already taken out. Shockwave only gets one, yet SSPPOODDEERRMMAA falls on the tail end. That is On Future trying to leap in, has the backup of Tubular Bells as well. Look for the jumping, look for the striking, look for the dredge line, forcing one Bread Weave to go golden. You don't come back from that. On Future secures the kill, and Chisholm again find ways to fight back.
Yeah, Maroochydore were not expecting a turnaround. They were expecting Chisholm to run and keep running, but instead Chisholm check their rearview mirror, say, hey, wait a second, you guys aren't committing everyone to this. Turn around as 5 and punch their way through Maroochydore, who now, with only 2 members up, I don't think KiNgLiNg and Ezreally Bad can actually hold this if Chisholm decide they commit to this tier 2. And Tubular stepping forwards. King is getting low and actually might be in danger.
Yeah, Tubular stepping very far forward. Dredge line's also going to connect. They're going to get them both thanks to that nice heads-up play out of chxzu and that damage from Tubular Bells. That's an unofficial ace. And now, unfortunately, I'm not sure they're healthy enough for a Baron play right here, but they have definitely made this game a lot more interesting.
We also just witnessed the most heartbreaking accidental betrayal I've seen in a while there. KiNgLiNg altered out of the way of the dredge line, and Ezreally Bad got caught in it, which is utterly heartbreaking. And yeejok could not stop the recalls there. But on the bright side now, Maroochydore do have time to set up vision control around the Baron. So we know that Chisholm is looking to try and look for that objective. So Maroochydore could look to maybe set up an ambush, set up a trap, because they've got the firepower to blow up someone from Chisholm's health bar. But the question is, they need to catch them and hold them down long enough to be able to dish out the damage.
Yeah, it's going to be that challenge for sure. Look, I was hoping for an exciting game. I was hoping for an even game. We're getting that in spades right now as we get later and later into this. Dredge line, though, could have been a bit premature. Shockwave only gets Ezreally Bad, and there's just so much damage coming from KiNgLiNg onto chxzu. One more auto should secure it, and it actually comes from the Vlad, as that's going to be a one-man advantage. But the health bars are low, and that will force Maroochydore to reset. Meanwhile, take a look at the top lane. Take a look at what SSPPOODDEERRMMAA is doing. That is a big wave and a very slow reaction coming from the Chisholm side.
Yeah, because Chisholm, what happened is Tubular actually was topside. He then rotated to mid to try and assist his teammates in what was that unfortunate trade there. And then when the trade had finally gone down, he was like, oh god, I've got to go back top lane. So it isn't going to be a full crash, and thankfully they will be able to keep their inhibitor turret on the top half of the map safe. But it does just show that Chisholm maybe over-aggressive in some states. But now it's time for the next 5 formal, as it is going to be Dragon number 4. Maroochydore really want to contest this, and Chisholm, I don't think they have a choice here. I feel like they have to contest this, but they're going to have to do it carefully, because look who's top lane putting on the pressure. Exactly.
SSPPOODDEERRMMAA, teleport available, putting pressure on that top side. Dragon already down to half, though, because Maroochydore, they're wasting no time. And I almost feel like they could have dragged things out, but no, they're going for the soul, and they are getting it. Over the wall comes On Future. He's looking at yeejok. Up above, however, it's a bit of a mess as the trains do crash, and Chisholm, they're driving that little bit faster. KiNgLiNg trying to run away, but that's because the conductor, he's in the other station. He's getting rid of the inhibitor. SSPPOODDEERRMMAA is going to gank the first one out of this game. Not much that Deegsta can do. Up above, Odd Fortune and yeejok are going at it. Here comes the rocket jump, forces a quick flash, and a timely escape. Maroochydore definitely come out on top.
Yeah, getting themselves a soul, getting themselves the inhibitor. Yes, they did lose the follow-through fight there. And as a result, the gold is dead even between these two teams here. But look at the global pressure that Maroochydore have to play with. A free pushing wave to set up around Baron. They have themselves the soul, which makes them so much harder to kill. Because Chisholm, we talked about this earlier, they don't have a lot of damage output sources. A lot of it is down into Tubular, and while Deegsta has some nice damage, it's just not enough to get through the tanks of Maroochydore here. So much of team fights that we see out of Chisholm is going to be on Tubular Bells' Tristana, and can he get the damage out safely? Because we both know that yeejok and Spoiderma are not going to let that Tristana just sit in the backline and do as they wish.
Not at all, and that's where the itemization is definitely going to start coming in key right now. If you are Spoiderma, if you are yeejok, I know it's fun to build damage items. Sharp, pokey things are lots of fun to play with. Just don't run around the house with them. However, it's now time to armor up. It's now time to just buy cloth, buy chainmail, buy everything that is thick and steel, and put it on your body, because if you are armored up, you already got that big shield from that, Mountain Drake. There is going to be so much longer of a period for Chisholm to try and whittle you down, and that is more time to find your flanks, get to that back line, and win this game.
Yeah, but so far, the itemization from Maroochydore has been quite nice. There's an early Zhonya's coming in from the Vladimir here. We're seeing triple armor items coming out from yeejok on the Warwick, and the good doctor has got plenty of help, and Blue, this isn't good.
Yeah, this is, the battle of the two Arctic champions, I suppose, and in the nice tropical fields, as yeejok is eventually able to run the polar pair down. Blue Wrath no longer in the equation. That is a jungler out of commission, and that could be Maroochydore looking at Baron, but instead they're looking for more plays, or rather being found in more plays. Odd Future actually trying to force the issue back against yeejok, who will be able to blast cone to safety. Deegsta still on the chase, but they could be running right into a trap, because the rest of Maroochydore are in that river as well. They really want to scrap right now. A fight very heavily favors Maroochydore with this numbers advantage, and yet they're only using it to establish control around the Baron pit.
Because they've got to be careful. They know that Gnar, that's a lot of damage. So they know that Gnar is near and available. So you cannot force plays around the jungle with Gnar nearly available, because yes, you may have a numbers advantage, but a numbers advantage doesn't matter if all 5 of you are CC'd into the wall. So they're going to have to be a little bit careful there, but actually, look at this.
Yeah, that dredge line connecting on the Spoiderma immediately forces him out, and that is a very ambitious play out of yeejok right into the middle, gets the 3-man taunt, but Tubular Bells is not taking any damage as the front lines do clash. It is Chisholm who capitalizes on it first. They get the double, they get the triple, they get the quadra, and it is only Ezreally Bad forced to hide in the safety of his own base.
Once again, Maroochydore do not have the best targeting. They are leaving Bells alone. They are not going in as a 5-man. We saw yeejok try and engage. Then we saw Spoiderma going in after yeejok had already been, basically his health bar had been nuked and tried to back away. We are not seeing 5 people from Maroochydore trying to slam down the shining star, if you will, of Chisholm, which is this Tristana, which is Tubular Bells. If they're not going to be able to commit properly 5 members to locking him down and nuking the health bar of the Tristana, you're not going to win the fight. Unfortunately, there's no two ways about it. If Tristana lives for Chisholm, Chisholm wins the team fight. Look at her. 17-1-0, 300 CS, 6 items, ready to dance every team fight.
And the team is designed to protect this Tristana as well. chxzu just needs to sit around where the Tristana is, and because of the Nautilus passive, because of those stuns, because of the amount of crowd control, it's going to be that much more difficult for yeejok or Spoiderma to stay on Tubular Bells. Then you have the shield that can be provided by Deegsta. Then you have Gnar and his ultimate and his ability to throw people around. It is going to be so tough to keep this Tristana pinned, and I mean, Maroochydore, if they can coordinate their dives, if they can play together, they can find those avenues, but in those key clutch moments at times, they haven't been in pace. And I think what threw them off in that last fight was the fact that Chisholm was actually the instigator. The dredge line coming from chxzu, I think, caught Maroochydore off guard. It led to that panic re-engage. If Maroochydore can be the proactive team, well, good things can happen. This is Mundo going where he pleases at the moment, Ewan.
Yeah, the good doctor does as he pleases. He's honestly fine. He has his ultimate. He might actually threaten the top lane inhibitor.
Yeah, go in him. Do it. He is.
He absolutely is. Because look at his bot lane. Tubular's bot lane, he didn't follow. And we both know that Deegsta doesn't have the damage to kill the Mundo easily. But they are playing safe, and I kind of have to respect that.
Yeah. I mean, they are against Baron-empowered minions as well. So, you have to take that into consideration. I love that heads-up, sort of positioning from Spoiderma. I don't think Blue Wrath wants to fight that Mundo. I think that's probably a bad time. Elder Drake, though, now on the Rift, and you can see Maroochydore already there for it. Spoiderma does have teleport, and I expect to see it soon. Who does not have teleport is your jungler, who is currently in the top lane, and Chisholm They don't want to start this dragon. They just want to keep Maroochydore away from it. That's going to be the flash engage. That is the Gnar that gets 3. And now Tubular Bells is going to rock him and sock him and jump everywhere. Gets himself 2 kills. Odd Future gets 1. And that could be Elder Drake going to the Chisholm side.
You don't need to have a jungle advantage. The other team is dead. Spider-Man wasn't in position, didn't teleport in, and Maroochydore, I don't think they were expecting it. They saw Blue Raph topside. They thought to themselves, okay, Chisholm, they're probably not going to contest this. They're probably going to try poke around and then not commit properly. And I don't think they saw the engage coming. The flash from chxzu on the Nautilus to instigate the fight there. Threw Maroochydore for a little bit of a loop. And then Future in that Mega Gnar form. So I'm happy to play it now. Tubular.
Oh, Tubular wants to end this game. Looking for that pick on KiNgLiNg. That could have done it. Instead, those death timers are going to come back just at the nick of time for Maroochydore. Does Chisholm continue this push? I reckon they should. They've got the Baron. They've got the Elder, but instead, that's Odd Future looking to recall, but Fret not. Teleports available on him as well as Deegsta, and he is teleporting to the top lane, actually, not into mid, not looking to continue this fight, and that could slow the game down. That could give Maroochydore another chance.
Yeah, it's slowing it down. So what the idea here is that it's safer to have all 3 lanes under your control when you go for this endgame push. It gives you doubled up super minions. It makes it so much harder for Maroochydore to clear waves and fight you at the same time. So his idea was, guys, you continue to pressure mid. I'm going to go top lane. I'm going to push it in. We've got Soul. We should have... No, Soul. Sorry, we have Elder, which should give us the pressure to do so. Unfortunately... to see flash coming through there. You do not have the raw fighting power to stop 5 members of Maroochydore diving on top of Tubular when you do not have the Gnar available. So that's why we see Chisholm forced back, and it's why the game will be slowed down a little bit. But I say only a little bit because look who's deciding that they want another inhibitor.
Yeah, I don't think a late game Tristana knows any other speed besides Sonic Fast when it comes to destroying some of these towers. That was scary to watch right now. Tubular Bells, if left alone with any objective, it is going to be gone. Maroochydore instead is going to try to force the issue on the top side, and that Shockwave only gets 1, only gets yeejok, who should be able to walk away quite safely. Maroochydore still 5 members strong, but 2 inhibitors down. Blue Raph just kind of chilling in the base, and that's an unwelcome house guest right there. Will be shown the door as Maroochydore gets another pick.
Yeah, but it's only a pick. Maroochydore are in a really difficult situation. Double inhibitors down, which if I recall correctly does mean double super minions coming in from the mid and bot. That means that Chisholm pretty much recalls, gets their items, gets their mana back, gets their health back, and then commits to the top lane. Therefore, Maroochydore are in a really difficult situation where they need to send someone to deal with the bot wave. They need to send someone to deal with the mid wave. But if they don't have all 5 members top lane, they cannot win the fight and stop the Chisholm siege. So you're put in a situation where if you do one thing, you're going to lose, and if you do the other, you're also going to lose. So it's a really hard situation for Maroochydore, and they have the firepower to win the fights, but they need to ensure they have the manpower to win it as well.
I feel like the best chance for Maroochydore is to try and capitalize out of a missed position or a mistake from the Chisholm side, and they have been looking for them. I mean, Blue getting caught in that base definitely has extended this game in Maroochidore's favor, and if they can continue to find small openings like that, eventually they will find a situation where they'll have that numbers advantage and they will be able to capitalize. This game has been actually quite, on a swing set, I should say, swinging back and forth, and a lot of these big pushes do come from unforced mistakes being punished. And both of these teams have been really good at recognizing them and capitalizing in those situations, but at the same time, they've also fallen victim to them a fair few times as well. The more consistent team probably is going to win this one, and right now that is Chisholm.
Well, they've got themselves a nice gold lead, and you look at their positioning here. Their positioning is actually really, really good, because Future is pushing top lane with teleport. That now means that Chisholm can rotate up, threaten this last inhibitor, and they have to fight here, I feel like.
Yeah, Spooder is... Yeah, Spooder burns Flash and barely gets out of that one alive. The inhibitor will fall. So now 3 inhibitors gone, but you still have both of your Nexus turrets. Maroochydore really careful. Thinks they see Tubular. Forces a defensive rocket jump. That's about 12 seconds on the cooldown roughly. And that's going to mean Tubular Bells probably not going to want to fight again until that ability is back. Maroochydore takes advantage of that situation, tries to clear the top wave, but look at the one down below. Those super minions doing so much work. Dredgeline is going to be the engage, and already yeejok is gone. The rest of Maroochydore has to fall back to the fountain. Instead, though, SSPPOODDEERRMMAA goes in and gets collapsed on. A double for this Tubular Bells. Give him the triple. Looking for the Quadra. Going golden in the fountain is Breadweave, so that means the Quadra instead comes against Vlad. There is your Penta. No, it's stolen, I believe. No, it was there. It was there. It was there. Penta secured. Game secured. The tower take juked me out. I got faked out by the tower. I thought chxzu stole it away, but no, it's a Penta. It's the game. I was jumping out of my seat. I was so excited to see that Penta come through. My goodness. Chisholm pull off a comeback, and they win our very first game.
Yeah, and that was such an even game for the most part. Like, I know you look at the end of the game, it's, oh, he got a pentakill, and we saw Tubular get a quadra-kill. Well, how is that even close to the game? But for a lot of that game, it was back and forth. It was trading as... Oh, yeah, I'm here. Don't worry. All is good. But it was back and forth trading. We saw plays on one half of the map countered by another. And it looked really, really good for Maroochydore because they managed to get themselves the soul. The problem, though, is that we talked about it in Champions, like their ability to engage, their ability to actually start the fights was rather limited. They had a Mundo who had to run at the problem. They had a Warwick who also had to basically run at the problem. And without a reliable form of crowd control, yes, Morgana exists, but it is hard for her to consistently get access to the Tristana. They couldn't stop Tubular from basically jumping around, and if you can't get on top of the one damage threat that your opponents really have, it is very difficult to win the team fight, especially when it's a Tristana who, despite all the armor that, you know, the good doctor would throw on and try and coach himself up with, it's not going to stop a Kraken Slayer Tristana from, well, we saw what happened already.
Yeah, exactly that. So credit to Chisholm. They were able to execute on their strategy despite falling down early. Great show of mental resolve. Great comeback and great team fighting to cap it all off. They will advance to 1-0. Maroochydore back to the drawing board, 0-1, but plenty of room to grow for this team. I think they've got the individual skills. It's just going to be coming together and playing as a team. Now, we're going to throw it to a quick break. We've got about 6 minutes until our next matchup, so stick with us. More League of Legends when we return.